What if the food you eat today could decide whether you recognize your family 10 years from now? What if dementia does not begin in old age but right now, quietly, invisibly, inside the brain of someone who feels perfectly healthy? And what if one everyday food eaten consistently could reduce the risk of dementia by 27%? Not a pill. Not a medical procedure. Not a complicated therapy. Just food. This is not exaggeration. This is not internet hype. This is not a trend. This number comes from long-term human research, following thousands of people over many years, watching how their brains age, how their memory changes, and how simple daily habits shape their future. Dementia is often portrayed as sudden and unavoidable. One day you're fine. Then memory starts slipping. Then confusion appears. Then everything changes. But that story is dangerously incomplete. Because dementia does not begin with forgetting names. It does not begin with confusion. It does not begin with diagnosis. Dementia begins decades earlier. While you are still working. While you are still driving. While you are still living a normal life. It begins quietly at the level of cells, blood vessels, and inflammation. And that silence is what makes it so dangerous. Inside the aging brain, small changes begin to accumulate. Inflammation rises just enough to cause damage but not enough to cause pain. Blood flow becomes slightly less efficient. Cells lose the ability to repair themselves quickly. Toxic byproducts start to build up. Communication between neurons becomes less precise. None of this triggers alarms. You don't feel it. You don't notice it. Your doctor may not detect it. But year after year the damage compounds. By the time memory loss becomes obvious, the brain has already been struggling for a long time. This is why dementia is so difficult to treat once symptoms appear. But prevention is different. Prevention works because it targets the early biology, not the late-stage damage. And this is where food becomes one of the most powerful tools we have. For a long time, nutrition was underestimated in brain health. Food was considered background noise, lifestyle decoration, a minor influence compared to genetics. That assumption is now collapsing. Modern science shows that the brain is deeply connected to what you eat. Food influences inflammation. Inflammation influences blood vessels. Blood vessels influence oxygen delivery. Oxygen delivery determines whether brain cells thrive or decline. The brain uses more energy than almost any other organ. It is sensitive. It is demanding. It depends on constant support. When that support weakens, cognitive decline follows. This is why researchers started seeing a remarkable pattern across different populations. Some regions of the world experience dramatically lower rates of dementia, even as people live longer. When scientists investigated why, they didn't find miracle genes. They found consistent eating patterns. And one food stood out more than any other. A food consumed daily. A food deeply embedded in traditional diets. A food associated with longevity, vascular health, and cognitive resilience. When researchers compared people who regularly consumed this food with those who did not, the difference was impossible to ignore. People who consumed it consistently showed slower memory decline, better cognitive performance with age, lower rates of dementia. Even after adjusting for exercise, education, weight, and lifestyle, the effect remained strong. The most striking finding? A reduction in dementia risk of approximately 27%. That is not marginal. That is the difference between independence and dependence, between clarity and confusion, between recognizing loved ones and losing them emotionally while they are still alive. According to Dr. William Lee, this food works because it does not target dementia at the surface level. It works at the biological roots. To understand why this matters, we need to understand what truly damages the brain over time. One of the biggest drivers of cognitive decline is chronic inflammation. Not the kind that causes pain or swelling, but the slow, persistent inflammation that quietly damages tissue every day. In the brain, this leads to neuronal stress, impaired communication, accelerated aging of brain cells. Another major factor is reduced blood flow. The brain depends on a constant supply of oxygen and nutrients. Even slight reductions can impair memory, attention, and processing speed. Then there is oxidative stress. As we age, free radicals damage DNA and cellular structures. Without protection, brain cells lose resilience and repair capacity. Finally, there is toxic protein accumulation. Over time, certain proteins can clump together, interfering with normal brain function and accelerating degeneration. The real danger is that these processes do not occur alone. They happen together. That is why single-solution approaches often fail. The brain needs broad protection, not narrow fixes. And this is exactly where this specific food stands apart. Because it supports multiple systems at once. The food linked to this powerful protective effect is extra virgin olive oil. Not processed oils. Not refined fats. Not imitation products. True high-quality extra virgin olive oil. This oil contains unique natural compounds that actively influence inflammation, circulation, cellular repair, and oxidative balance. It is not passive fuel. It is biologically active. For thousands of years, it has been consumed daily in cultures known for long life, sharp thinking, and low rates of cognitive decline. Only now is science catching up to what tradition already understood. And once you understand what extra virgin olive oil does inside the brain, the 27% reduction in dementia risk no longer sounds surprising. Because dementia is not inevitable. It is the end result of years of biological stress. And food, eaten consistently, has the power to reduce that stress long before damage becomes permanent. By now you understand something critical. Dementia is not a sudden event. It is a slow biological process that builds silently for years. So the real question becomes this. How can one food possibly reduce dementia risk by such a meaningful amount? The answer lies in how it works inside the brain, at the level where decline actually begins. Let's break this down clearly, without jargon, without hype, and without confusion. First, we need to talk about inflammation. Inflammation is not always bad. It helps heal injuries and fight infections. But chronic inflammation is different. It is low-grade, persistent, invisible. And in the brain it is devastating. As we age, immune cells in the brain, called microglia, can become overactive. Instead of protecting neurons, they begin damaging them. They release inflammatory signals that interfere with memory formation. They weaken connections between brain cells. They accelerate cognitive aging. This chronic inflammation is now recognized as a core driver of dementia. Here is where extra virgin olive oil becomes powerful. It contains a rare compound called oleocanthal. Oleocanthal has been shown to act similarly to natural anti-inflammatory pathways in the body. But unlike drugs that blunt inflammation broadly, oleocanthal works gently and consistently. It reduces excessive inflammatory signaling without shutting down healthy immune function. In simple terms, it calms the brain instead of suppressing it. This creates an environment where neurons can survive longer, communicate better, and resist degeneration. Next, let's talk about blood flow. Your brain represents only about 2% of your body weight. Yet it uses roughly 20% of your oxygen supply. That means even small disruptions in circulation can have serious consequences. With age, blood vessels stiffen. The inner lining of arteries becomes less responsive. Microcirculation inside the brain weakens. This reduces oxygen delivery and nutrient supply. Over time, brain cells begin operating in a state of mild deprivation. Memory suffers. Processing speed slows. Focus declines. Extra virgin olive oil supports vascular health in multiple ways. Its monounsaturated fats improve the flexibility of blood vessels. Its polyphenol protect the inner lining of arteries, allowing them to dilate properly. Better dilation means better blood flow. Better blood flow means more oxygen. More oxygen means stronger, more resilient brain cells. This is one reason populations that consume olive oil daily show better cognitive performance well into old age. Now let's discuss oxidative stress. Every cell in your body produces energy. And every time energy is produced, free radicals are generated as a byproduct. Free radicals damage DNA, proteins, and cell membranes. In the brain, this damage accumulates over time. If it is not neutralized, neurons lose their ability to function efficiently and repair themselves. This is where antioxidants matter. But not all antioxidants reach the brain effectively. Extra virgin olive oil contains fat-soluble antioxidants that easily cross cell membranes. They embed themselves into neuronal structures and protect them from oxidative damage. Think of them as shields for brain cells. This protection slows cellular aging and preserves communication between neurons. Now we come to one of the most important, and least discussed, factors in dementia: toxic protein buildup. In aging brains, certain proteins can clump together instead of being cleared away. These clumps interfere with signaling and eventually kill neurons. Healthy brains constantly remove these waste products. But as we age, clearance systems slow down. Research shows that compounds in extra virgin olive oil help activate the brain's natural waste removal pathways. They encourage the breakdown and clearance of harmful proteins. This is critical, because preventing accumulation is far more effective than trying to remove damage later. Another key factor is insulin sensitivity. Most people associate insulin with diabetes. But insulin also plays a role in brain function. When brain cells become resistant to insulin, memory and learning suffer. Some researchers even refer to dementia as type 3 diabetes of the brain. Extra virgin olive oil improves insulin sensitivity throughout the body, including the brain. This helps neurons access glucose efficiently, keeping them energized and functional. Now let's talk about consistency. This food does not work like a drug. You do not take it once and see immediate results. Its power comes from daily use. Small effects, repeated over years, compounding into massive protection. This is why studies show the strongest benefits in people who consume it regularly, not occasionally. 1 tablespoon here and there is not enough. But consistent daily intake creates a biological environment that resists cognitive decline. Another important point, quality matters. Refined oils do not provide these benefits. Many products labeled olive oil are stripped of polyphenol. Only true extra virgin olive oil contains the full spectrum of protective compounds. Color, bitterness, and slight peppery sensation in the throat are signs of quality. Those sensations indicate the presence of active polyphenol. Now let's address something important. Extra virgin olive oil does not act alone. It works best as part of an overall brain supportive pattern. But even on its own, its effects are measurable and meaningful. That is why this food consistently appears in studies on longevity, cognition, and dementia prevention. It is not a miracle. It is biology working quietly every day. By reducing inflammation. By improving circulation. By protecting neurons from oxidative damage. By supporting waste clearance. By preserving insulin sensitivity. All of these pathways converge on one outcome. A brain that ages more slowly. And that is why a 27% reduction in dementia risk is not surprising. It is expected. By now the picture should be clear. Dementia is not a single moment in time. It is a slow process shaped by thousands of small biological decisions made every day. And one of the most influential decisions is what kind of fat you feed your brain. So how do you actually use this food in real life? Not in theory. Not in perfect conditions. But in daily routines that are realistic, sustainable, and effective. The protective effects seen in research do not require extreme amounts. Most benefits appear with 1 to 2 tablespoons per day. Not all at once. Not occasionally. But consistently. This is not about adding more food. It is about replacing harmful fats with protective ones. When extra virgin olive oil replaces refined seed oils, margarine, or heavily processed fats, the brain environment changes. Inflammation decreases. Blood vessels respond better. Cells repair more efficiently. This is why how you use it matters. Extra virgin olive oil is best used gently. Drizzle it over vegetables. Add it to salads. Mix it with beans or lentils. Use it to finish cooked foods rather than frying at high heat. High temperatures can destroy delicate polyphenol. Gentle use preserves their biological activity. This is not about perfection. It is about making olive oil a daily signal to your brain that repair and protection are a priority. Now let's talk about age. After 50, the brain becomes more sensitive to damage. Inflammation rises more easily. Blood sugar spikes have greater impact. Blood vessels lose flexibility faster. At the same time, the brain's ability to repair itself begins to slow. This is exactly when prevention becomes most powerful. Not because the brain is failing, but because it is more responsive to support. When you provide the right signals consistently, the brain adapts. Neurons survive longer. Connections remain stronger. Memory pathways stay active. This is why dietary patterns matter more than isolated interventions. No pill can replicate the combined effects of daily nutritional signaling. No single supplement can replace the complexity of real food. Extra virgin olive oil works because it integrates into the body's systems naturally. It becomes part of cell membranes. It influences gene expression. It supports repair rather than forcing change. This is also why its effects accumulate slowly and last. Now, it is important to be honest. Extra virgin olive oil is not a cure. It cannot erase existing dementia. It cannot guarantee prevention. But it can shift probability. And when it comes to dementia, probability matters. A 27% reduction is not abstract. It represents millions of people who may never experience cognitive decline. Families who may never face caregiving crises. Individuals who may retain independence longer. That is the real impact. This also reframes how we think about aging. Aging is not simply about time passing. It is about how well repair keeps pace with damage. When repair falls behind, decline accelerates. When repair stays active, aging slows. Extra virgin olive oil supports repair at multiple levels. It reduces inflammation that damages neurons. It improves circulation that feeds the brain. It protects DNA and cell structures. It supports waste removal and metabolic balance. All of these processes shape how the brain ages, and they respond to daily choices. This is why prevention does not feel dramatic. It does not announce itself. It happens quietly. One meal at a time. One day at a time. One tablespoon at a time. And that quiet consistency is its strength. The most powerful health strategies are often the simplest. They do not promise miracles. They deliver stability. They do not fight the body. They work with it. Dementia is frightening because it threatens identity. Memory is who we are. Recognition is connection. Clarity is independence. Protecting the brain is not just about adding years to life. It is about protecting the quality of those years. Sometimes the most important interventions are not found in hospitals or laboratories. They are found in kitchens, in grocery stores, on dinner plates. And they work not because they are dramatic but because they are consistent. The future of your brain is shaped long before symptoms appear. And it begins with what you choose to eat today.